theyeshiva.net.
Okay, good morning everybody. A good chodesh, a freiliche chodesh, yehafich l'simcha. We're holding page 155, right? In the middle of Seif Gimel, on the bottom of the first column. So we've been exploring the first stage of Davening, known here as the skeleton or the bones, the atzamos, in lieu of the bones of the carbon, of the sheep of the carbon tamid, which represents a deep focus, a mental awareness on the truths, the ultimate truths of life. And the ultimate truth of life, he said, is expressed in the pasuk of Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, which is the mindful focus on the truth of reality that a person ought to really delve into with complete dedication, mental dedication and contemplation, what he calls his boinenus, das, tkua b'chayzik. And ultimately it's this das that will flow through arteries and sinews called gidim to the flesh of the human being, which is connected to the blood of the heart, which are all symbolic of the various responses emotionally to this contemplation. And what is the main message? Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Shema means to understand, not just to hear. And what is the understanding here? The understanding here is that Hashem is Elokeinu. All of existence is Elokeinu, which Elokeinu represents Elokim, a restriction, like the drop from the Atlantic Ocean as explained. And that drop is still submerged in the source as explained at length. In that source where Ruchnius and Gashmius are all one and completely identical. Yet from there comes the Baruch, the flow, the Hamshacha, the flow of Shem, Kvoid, Malchusa, which represents the trickling of the energy to a point where it goes from Ayin to Yesh, with the ray, the solar light wave, the light wave leaves the solar core, or the tipa apparently, and I say apparently, it's all apparently, the light wave apparently leaves the solar core. The tipa apparently leaves the ukiyonis from our perspective, and develops into the whole evolution of levels called Mamala Kalalmin, Shem Kvoid Malchusa, where there becomes an Ila and an Alul, Ruchnius, Gashmius, Ayin and Yesh in every world in its own way. La'olam Vad, translating into the world that we inhabit and we populate, or even the higher worlds that higher souls and angels populate in consciousness. And V'ila Zois, thus, hence the conclusion is, V'yahavtas Hashem Elokecha, that Yutke Vavke, Hashem, should be Elokecha, should be yours, that the person wants to become completely one with the truth, in a complete craving and yearning without any other desire naturally. Mili b'shamayim v'imchalei chafatzti ba'aretz ki be'emes, because the truth is that einoid malvade, there's nothing outside of this truth. Ulemi yachbad zulasei, and who are you going to desire outside of him when there is really nothing to desire? 4 lines from the bottom. V'isayrirus avezu b'leivish hubchines dam hakarbon. The arousal of this love in the heart of the human being, that represents the blood of the carbon. Kimilvad baser gidin v'atzames shebekarbon shekrivu al gabe hamizbeach oy diktiru achele v'zarku sadam al gabe hamizbeach. Let's remember what a carbon entailed. There was the flesh of the animal, the sinews and arteries of the animal, the bones of the animal, that all went onto the mizbeach by a carbon oila. We're talking here the sheep in the morning and the afternoon, which represents davening. But in addition to that, they also burnt on the mizbeach the chayil of the fats of the carbon. In addition to that, the blood also was sprinkled on the altar. Every carbon oila had its blood applied to the altar. We say every morning, ha'oila, kodesh kadashim, remember, shchitasa batzafen, v'kibul dama b'chlisharis batzafen, v'dama ton, shtei, matanos shein arba. The carbon oila the Mizbeach got two applications of blood. Shtei matanas shein arba. Because the blood was on the corner of Mizrachis Tzvainis, northeast of the Mizbeach. It went on both sides, one application on two corners that went to two directions, and the other one, Droimis Ma'aravis, southwest. Utu'un hefshet v'nituach v'chalil le'ishim. It goes all to the fire. Chalil means kuloik, the cloud. The whole thing goes le'ishim. Then we come to Zivchei Shalmei Tzibur V'Hashamas. There's a different halacha. But here we're talking about the oilam. So you had the basar, the gidden, the atzamas, the chaylev, all on the mizbeach. The blood was sprinkled on the sides of the mizbeach. Two applications which covered two sides, which covered all four sides. It's called shtayim shein arba, shtei matana shein arba. It was only two applications, but it's really like four because it went on all four directions, all four sides of the mizbeach. Mizrach, Ma'ariv, Darim, Tzaf. What's Zrikas Hadam? So the Atzamos we explained was the Hisbaininus. The Gidim is translating the Hisbaininus emotionally, and emotions could never contain the full depth of the Hisbaininus, because then there would be no I emotionally to experience the truth of Einoid Malvadoi. If the drop goes back into the ocean, so then the drop doesn't feel itself, so there's no more self-consciousness, there's no emotion. Emotion by definition requires a sense of I, which is why to get from Shema to Vahafta, you go through Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Alaylam Va. That's the story I told you once, that there was an almana, a widow, who had two Yisayimim, and the Balatanya was traveling, and he went through a city, and she brought both boys to receive a blessing from the Balatanya. And she picked them up to the coach, and one of them was an 8-year-old boy, and he asked the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, the following question. He said in Yiddish, Ayid zogt Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, vi ken zogen v'yahavta. Once you say Shema Yisrael, how could you say after that v'yahavta? What was his question? If God is really one, and the only reality, Einoid Mulvada, v'yahavta means you should love. Where is there a you to love? He said there's nothing else to love but him, but there's also no you to love. So how could it be va'afta? Question of an 8-year-old boy. So the Balatanya meditated and he said, because in middle you say Baruch Shem. This boy's name was Yisrael. He grew up to be Rabbi Yisrael Rizhiner, the Heilige Rizhiner. This is what he asked when he was 8 years old. In middle you say Baruch Shem. Baruch Shem is really the Me'ayin Liyesh. It's the light wave coming out of the solar core, at least from the perspective of the worlds. That the divine is translated into the consciousness of the universe, not submerged in its original source where it occupies no space. Even though it's true, even now, it's still submerged. But there's a concept called the world, from our perspective. Because you say Baruch Shem, then you say Vahafta. That's the arteries that transfer the energy of the Moyach, or the Atzamos, the line, to the heart, where there is the emotional experience. You have the Dam, is the Ahava. Uzrikas Hadam upchinas Ahava Aza, hanimsheches misbeinus migdulas ein seif baruch. The love that comes from the Hisbaininus, that was the sprinkling of the blood. B'gdulas Ein Sof Baruch Hu, in the Gdulas, the infinity of Ein Sof. B'mesidus Nefesh. B'echad Mamish, B'das Atkua B'chayzer. When the person appreciates the concept of Einoid Mulvada, that there's really only one, and truly delves their mind into it. Ki gam avazu ibchinas retichas adama. All love is the blood boiling. When a person is in love, it's called retichas adamim. The blood is zudik. What's the word? Heisa zudik blood. Boiling, bubbling blood. Reticha. Like when the water bubbles in its full heat. That's what zrikas adam was. They took fresh blood, they sprinkled it on the mizbeach. The mizbeach represents the Shechina. In tefillah, it means that there's a real emotional experience of Ava. Now your blood was sprinkled on the mizbeach. So every component of the carbon is translated into the experience of tefillah. V'hainu lefi shahadaz v'yizbeinus atzma shebchinas atzamos, or atzmos, but the same concept. The word atzmos Bones comes from the word etzem because it's like the core. Etzem is the core of the person. The very structure of the human body is called the atzamais. That's the hisbainanus. Hipchinis kriris. That itself is not hot. All intellectual experiences are cold. Ki hamoyach mayim velechos. This also has to do with the fact that the moyach, the brain, is associated with moisture and feichkeit, wetness. Aval avash belev, when it comes to the heart, the love, that's Makai Mishkan Hadamen. That's the dwelling place of the blood, where the blood is generated. Sham Yisoid Ha'esh V'Hatzimoyen. That's the element of fire and thirst in the human life. There's a sense of dryness versus a sense of leichus. Thirst here is spiritual, but it's the concept when a person is thirsty, he's dry. Leichus and mayim is, he's hydrated, he's not dehydrated. So that's the concept. In the moyach is a place of mayim, which is naturally cool. The leiv is the place of fire, which is naturally hot. When a person is highly, highly emotional, it's very hard for them to think. When a person is thinking and really contemplating in something, they can't feel themselves, nor can they feel the intensity of the emotion. Right? You'll tell somebody, you're too emotional to think. You're too emotional to think about it. You're too involved. That's the mila of emotion. The mila of emotion is you fall apart in the process because you're present. You're fully present. Moichin, as we explained, you're aloof. There's an element of detachment. On the other hand, the mila of moichin is that you could reach a place beyond your own experience. You could really see something for what it is. It's not about you. You're searching for the truth, but it's not emotionally experiential. Those are the two stages. So moichin is mayin and leichus. Leiv is eish and simoyin. There's a thirst, there's a fire there. V'hu machmas is beinanus hatkua b'chayzik be'emes lamita. B'kerev ish v'leiv amuk, the av, the heat comes. It all starts with the hisbeinanus, which is etched b'chayzik. You could think about something in a very passive way. It's not real. You could think about something and you literally take a peg and you fix your mind to it b'chayzik. You're takua there. Takua means you're etched into it. You really delve into it that it becomes real. It's not stam, a passive hisboinenus. In other words, these are concepts he's saying here. You have to completely put your mind into it to the point that it becomes takua b'chayzik, be'emes la'amita, be'kerev ish v'leiv amok. Then it could permeate the kerev is the kishkas, the intestines. Like we say in Nishmas, v'chol kerev uchloyos yizamru l'shmecha, right? Bekerev ish v'leiv amok, in the depth of the heart, atche yimser nafshe mamish be'echad. Until the point that when he says echad, there is Mesiras Nefesh. What's pshat Mesiras Nefesh? Not physical death. Shelo yachbetz chayfetz v'rotzen achos alasi yizbarach. It's deeper than physical death. Mesiras Nefesh means Mesiras haratzon. Nefesh in terms of rotzen. Not that the person dies by echad. Baruch Hashem, not every time a person says Shema Yisrael is he called on to die, thank God. But the vart is something even harder. Not to die for God, but to live for God. Sometimes that's much, much harder. The real something, fakir. When the light goes back to its core, it becomes one with its source. It's nothing because it doesn't have to be something. It's nothing because it's so connected to its source, it doesn't have to stand out. I don't know how to answer your question. I don't know what you hear when you hear the word nothing. That's the issue. It's a psychological issue going on here. You know what I mean? When he says here the word nothing, it's...
We always said it means alignment as opposed to...
Alignment, yeah. In other words...
Drop in the ocean. It's nothing. It's an ocean.
Ayin is the greatest place. That's the point. In other words, you can hear the word nothing...
That's the nothing that he knows. That nothing is...
No, in other words, somebody says, Bista garnished. That's not this maimer. You understand? Bista garnished means you're a pet adam, you're nothing, you're valueless, you're insignificant. But we're trying to graduate from all that. Yes.
Yeah, there's something that's nothing, and there's nothing that's something.
No, when you say it's an insult.
Nothing he understands.
Here the nothingness is is sublime. It's you don't have to be, huh? It's the ultimate godless, but it's a different type of God. Not godless that's an egotistical godless. It's godless that comes from complete oneness with the Makar.
It's the story that
You don't need to be noticed. You don't need to be noticed. Fakert, if the you focuses attention on itself, it's compromised.
It's the story you had.
You get what I'm saying? It's kodul in the Makar. It's one with the Makar. In a way, it's stronger than it is. It's stronger than it'll ever be. The light, when it's in the sun, is much more powerful than what's out of the sun, because it's in the source. But it doesn't have its own shame. It doesn't have its own name. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have an identity. So you're good.
It's a story you said once, I think, in the Rasha. He called him in. He wants them to be part of his body, part of his guf.
The Rayatz, yeah. Yeah.
So it's easier, it's much easier to die with the Hashem than live with the
In a way. And not to...
Everywhere.
huh?
Why only in a way?
Giving up life is giving up life. I mean,
But giving up life every second.
Machas nishtam.
to be
You're
with
right.
Hashem
You're right.
is doing it every second again
Right.
and again.
But again, the word give up life, it's not you're giving up, you understand, you're giving up something glamorous in order to repress. The word is lemi yachpoit zulosai. Einoid Mulvada is the emes. Lemi yachpoit zulosai. Any other rotzoin is a distraction of true reality.
It's actually grabbing.
It's actually grabbing reality. Any rotzen outside of Hashem is a distraction of reality. But this is not simple stuff. It's not a simple statement. This, I'm telling you, it's not a shalosh shudasdik cute vart. You understand? It says in this parsha, it says in the pasuk like this, but in this parsha it says like this. Means you have to have a karas hatayv. Okay. Which is true. You have to have a karas hatayv. I'm saying the statement here that any desire in the world is a distraction and it's based on a cover-up is very heavy. It's not intuitive. I want coffee, I want money, I want a house, I want a health, I want this person, I want attention, I want validation, I want security, I want to get rid of this problem. Everyone has ritzoynus in the world. If you look at the emes of the rotzen, the only emes in that rotzen is the alakus of it. And anything else is a distraction. Lemi yachpoit zulasai. That's the ultimate truth of reality. So b'meila, mesiras hanefesh means nefesh as rotzen. There's a pasuk in Yirmiyah, Ein nafshi elo'am hazeh. My soul is not for this people. Meaning, I don't have enthusiasm anymore. You'll say my soul is not in this conversation. My soul is not in this relationship. You know, sometimes you're having a conversation with somebody and you're like, I really don't want to be here. I mean, you don't say it, but it happens once in a while, right? It's just, I really don't want to be here. Ein nafshi elo'am hazeh. Mesiras hanefesh means mesiras haratzon. He says, Shlo yachbetz chayfetz v'ratzon acher zelasi yizbarach. That's the echad awareness. Ve'ila zois, vayte ila zois is always the bechein, thus, hence, tigdalat shukah b'atzimoyim b'lev b'izgalus avakrish b'yesh mamish, b'chol avavcha, kol libo v'chol cheftzei lavas Hashem b'klois hanefesh mamish. Hence the desire and the thirst in the heart becomes great when this love, that is like fire, becomes revealed in the whole heart. What's pshat b'chol avavcha? Kol libo v'chol cheftzei. B'chol avavcha means usually our heart is compartmentalized. We always have an exit door. I love you, but I also love you just in case it doesn't work out with you, it'll work out with you. It's called a pilegesh. So with God, everyone always has a pilegesh. You know, I don't fully trust the relationship. I can't put all my eggs in the basket. Why? Because I'm afraid some of these eggs are going to come cracking down on my head. And I don't want to end up with yolk flowing from my cheeks for the rest of my life, egg yolk. So therefore I put some eggs in one basket and some eggs in another basket. B'chol avavcha means you trust the relationship. Your whole heart is here. There's nothing else. Your whole heart is here. That's what we say in Nishmas, right? What's the lashon over there? Ki chol pelecha yoyda. V'chol lashon l'chas shava. V'chol ayin. So the pashtus, the word is kol pe means every mouth. Kol lashon, every tongue. Kol ayin, every eye. Kol berech, every knee. Kol koima, every stature. Every height, every body. Kol alavavis, all hearts. But here he's teaching different. Kol ayin means the entirety of your eye. Kol lashon, kol peh, kol berech, kol koima. Kol pelechaya, the kol lashon, kol ayin, the entire eye. You shouldn't be looking somewhere else. Kol berech, kol koima, the whole element of the entire component of it is completely in this relationship. There's no compartmentalization. Kol levavcha, kol libay, kol cheftzai, lavas hashem beklois hanefesh mamash. That's the element of the dam of the mizbeach. It starts with hatzamas, it starts with the bones, it starts with the moyach, and through the gidim, which also goes on the mizbeach. So the whole process of the physiological anatomy of the animal and of the person is involved in this process of tefillah.
One madrega about or two he's talking about here?
One. Pashtus one. Was?
What's pshat gam avazu? Top line.
No, gam avazu means just like by the mizbeach. It was ritichas adam, it was fresh blood. This ava is also that. The avin, tefillah, is like the ritichas adamim of the carbon. That's what it means. V'achar kach, we're still left with the fat. The chaylev has not been addressed. The chaylev, the fats, the fattiness. What's that? It says, v'achar kach, we dealt with the atzamais, with the gidden, with the basar, with the dam. V'achar kach, v'hoyu advarim eila shenoichi mitzav chayim alavavecha. Now you come to the next pasuk. These words that I command you should be on your heart. Ubchines hekter hachelev shamnunis shebehem. Now you take the chelev, the fat, the shamnunis, which means the fatty components of the animal, and you burn them. V'chein b'adam agashmi. You see this in a physical person. Ki yirav lechel ayedei retiches adamim. A person is often very hungry to eat. Retiches adamim. Like after exercise or something, a person gets hungry. The blood is boiling and the person is starving. What happens? And then he fills his soul because of his hunger. He fulfills, he implements his desire. As he eats, the fat starts growing. And part of that has to do with the pleasure of the food. Pleasure represents chelev, shamnunius, the fattiness, the pleasure of it, the tainuk. Spiritually speaking, in the world of Kabbalah and Chassidus, every element of food represents a certain spiritual energy. It's translated in the body in one way, but spiritually it represents something. Fattiness represents tainuk. The emotion of pleasure, of delight, physically is expressed in the experience of chelev and shamnunis. A person needs some tainug, a person needs some chelev and shamnunis. You have to know how much, like everything, proportions. But that's the idea that from the chayfetz, from the geschmack is fat. You'll say the fatkeit von azach, the fattiness of it. So you have fat in physical terms with all of its ramifications. You have fat in spiritual terms, which represents tainug. The smetina, yeah. The smetina, yeah. The tainug. V'chein al derech mashal ba'avoida. What does this mean in avoida, in a person's life? After you went through everything we said, and you reached the b'chalavavcha, which could take some time. Over here it was one half a page in a maimer. But after you went through this experience of b'chalavavcha, zois yasem elibay. Now, this is what a person should think about. Ki hadvarim, v'hayu hadvarim. What are dvarim? What are these words? Hein divrei Torah, the words of Torah or mitzvos. Hein asher anoichi mamish mitzavcha. These are words that anoichi mitzavcha. I myself have given you. V'loy b'bchinas shem kvoid malchus, b'bchinas mamalek alalman levad, shobchinas shem v'loy b'chinas atzmas. You've been talking about all the universes, that it's Shem, it's Kvoid, it's Malchusoi, it's the Tipper, it's the light wave. But now, let's speak about Anoichi. The Dvarim ha'ela divrei Torah, the Mitzvos. This is me myself I gave you. It wasn't only my name, my covet, my Malchus, my Malakalam. Malakalam means the trickle, the little trickle of energy that infuses the world with consciousness. What's the bracha before every mitzvah? Asher kiddishanu. What's pshat kiddishanu? Shehu muvdal megeder almin. He made us holy through the mitzvah. Kedusha, as we learned, is above, beyond the worlds. Not only beyond the worlds, beyond the geder of the worlds. You have something beyond, and then you say, it's not even in that geder. It's not even in that realm. It's a different geder. This is the meaning of the pasuk in Yirmiyah, which is the Haftarah of Parshas Pinchas. Here, a Taichin pasuk. Kodesh Yisrael Hashem Reishis Tvuasa. The beginning of the Haftarah of Pinchas. The Jews are holy to God. Reishis Tvuasa. The beginning of his tvua, of his grain. So literally, the Mefarshim Taina, it's a metaphor. When you have grain, you have the beginning, the best, like the Bikurim. So Reishis Tvuasa, this is the beginning of his grain, the genesis of his grain. He says it means something deep. Tvua hebchines b'malakalam. Whenever you talk about grain, it's a great metaphor for the divine energy that fills the world. Why? Because we go back to the beginning of the mind. Rebchines seder eshtalshus represents the evolution. Ki ein lecha esav mulmata, she'ein lei mazel mulmayla. The grain we learned before from the Medrash. There's no blade of grass that doesn't have a spiritual mazel that tells it grow, grow, grow. The mazel comes from Shmarei Haifanim. The Haifanim comes from Chayas HaKodesh. The Chayas HaKodesh comes from the Tzraf. The Tvua Lagabe, the mazel is Yesh Lagabe Yayin. The mazel Lagabe Haifanim is Yesh Lagabe Yayin. The Haifanim Lagabe Chayas is Yesh Lagabe Yayin. And the Chayas, which is Ayin, Lagabe the Tzrafim, is also Yesh. So that's the process of Hishtalshalus. You start with the Tvua down here, and when you look at the Tvua, you go back. You trace the energy higher and higher, deeper and deeper and deeper. Every physical structure, there's the Yesh of it and the Ayin of it. You look at this table, the wood that we see, the solid rigidity. Yes? Did I say that right? Okay. We're learning. The solid rigidity and inflexibility of the table is a Yesh. Legabe, the atomic structure of it, it's Yesh. You go into the inner world of it with a microscope, and you see a far less tangible and rigid and fixed universe. That's the Ayin. But the atom, the atomic level, the particles of the atom, Legabe the Ayin, Legabe the empty space, that's Yesh, Legabe Ayin. But even the empty space within the physical world is Yesh, Legabe the spiritual energy. And so you go further and further and further in everything in the world. That's the world of... Right, so Tvu is like the product of the Esav, which brings you to the Mazel, which brings you up, in the ladder of Mamala Kalalma, which is a very sophisticated presentation of how to look at the universe. That's Tvu. Mashenkin Yisroel me'al gavoya, ki Mashenkin Yisroel in b'chinas reishis Tvuasai, v'koydem lahem, l'fi shei b'chinas kodesh, v'pnei ha'shekadeshanu b'mitzvos. Yisrael, who's rooted in Kodesh. Kodesh Yisrael Hashem. That's the way the greatest Ayin is absorbed in the source. The Gabi, the source, it's also Yesh. Tzav of Kalalman, which is the source of Hashem that transcends even the drop in the Okeanos. Reishis Tvuasa. Completely before, Reishis as before, higher than the Tvua. Because Kiddeshana b'mitzvaysa. That's not Shem Kvoid Malchuse, that's Anoichi mitzavch. Ubehem nimshachum esla b'shayne ge'alien baruch. And therefore, in the Dvarim ha'ela, what you have is the Oineg ha'elyon. Oineg ha'elyon is the divine delight, the Geschmack. Hagam sha mitzvos malabashim gam kein begashmi zroyim moyed chuli trumas maestros chuli. What are you talking about? The mitzvahs are all based on the physical world. All mitzvahs are connected, say the zroyim. It's all about agriculture. It's about fields and plants and bushes and flowers and seeds and trees and produce and vegetables. Any halacha. Whether it's Peya or D'mai, whether it's Kilayim or Shviyas, Trumas, Meisters, Chala, Orla, Bikurim. It's all you're dealing with physical stuff, which you explained is all part of Ishtalshalos. Mitzvahs Truma, Mitzvahs Meister. Moyed, the same thing. What's with Moyed? Any halachas of Moyed is connected to the physical, and you go Schuli, you go Nashim, you're talking about Nezikin, it's all physical. And even Kachim and Taurus and so forth. Al Zen Nemer, on this the Pasuk says, Pikudei Hashem Yesharim Mesamchi Leif. Here, Nachatayche. We say Shabbos in the morning from Davening, yeah? Tehillim Kapitel Yotes, right? Pikudei Hashem Yesharim Mesamchi Leif. You remember the pasuk? The commandments of God are Yesharim, they're straight. Mesamche Lev, they give joy to the heart. What's Pshat Yesharim? So he says, Pirush Yesharim, she'einam b'derech ishtalshelus ila v'olam. They're straight. They don't go through the regular evolution of the divine energy of Ila and Olam. Ila means there's a cause and an effect, an antecedent and an effect of that. Right? There's the shmarim, there's the ifanim, and there's the mazel. There's the mazel and there's the bush, the grass, and so on and so forth. But Pinchas, Hester, Panim, Bida, Samadregas, over there the energy always conceals its face, and it always descends from one step to another step. Shemisave umisgasha. The divine energy becomes thick and corporal. It assumes a physical incarnation, meaning, as the divine energy trickles down in each world, it assumes a more brute veneer. And in every level, the veneer becomes more mis'ava, more dense and more materialized, until in this world, where the energy becomes completely physical. So it starts off as purely transcendent, but it trickles down in a process of Hester Ponim. And it comes down, it's melubish, and every world is more levushim, more garments, more veils. He says, take one example. Human intellect, human understanding, seichel anushi. Where does it come from? It comes from seichel eliki. Everything comes from Hashem. But how do you compare human intellect to divine intellect? It's two separate worlds. One comes from the other. Every blade of grass comes from a spiritual source. But ultimately it assumes a physical dimension. And the remoteness between seichel anushi, between human intellect, the way we define intelligence, what we grasp, and divine intellect, even though there are similarities, because our seichel comes from that seichel, but it goes through such an infinite process of evolution that ultimately seichel anushi can be so distorted. With the human mind, you can justify everything in the world. You can have the most fakrumta seichel anushi in the world, the most crooked, what people call intelligence. They say that you're so open-minded, all the brains fell out. But it's seicheldik. It looks seicheldik. It looks very interesting, but it's seichel anushi. It's human. Even a healthy seichel anushi, even honest seichel anushi, it's still what the human can grasp. What the human can grasp is very limited. You can't compare it to seichel eliki, to divine. It's a whole different experience. Even what the neshama grasps outside of the body is infinitely more than what the neshama could grasp in the body. The moment a person passes on, what opens up from that for them in terms of awareness is infinitely beyond what we can ever imagine. Because our seichel is very limited, even though we can grasp lots of stuff. But we are completely trapped within a certain orbit in which we can understand things. Even though in its origin it was all seichel eliki. Started with Chachma Vatzilus, Chachma de Bria, Chachma de Yitzira, Chachma de Asiya, Chachma de Asiya Hagashmis. And that's the Chachma that we have access to here.
Say Yeshua, what do you need to, the Yidim and all those things? Yeshua, I don't need to go back to the Tzav.
Okay, 1 second, good question. But now, 1 second. Avol Likkutei Hashem heim Yesharim. The Likkutei Hashem are Yesharim. What about Yesharim? Shenimshach b'em eirin seif baruch hu kamay l'mayla mamash. There's a straight line. The Ein Sof, the way it's l'mayla in its source, comes down in the mitzvah right l'mata, without going through the metamorphosis from ruchnius to lower ruchnius to lower ruchnius, lower ruchnius till gashmis. It's Yesharim. Why? Ki hein heim chachmasei ritzoni yisbarach mamash. Because Torah in this world and mitzvahs in this world is His wisdom, and it's His will, and it's mamish His wisdom and will. V'lachein heim mesamchei leiva adam. That's why they have a koyach to be mesameach leiva adam lamata b'hi golois niglois orein sayv baruch Hu. In a world that's parched, in a world that's devoid of its ultimate true source and meaning. It's the Likkutei Hashem that are Yesharim, that are mesamchei leiv. This heart that was thirsty for truth. It was thirsty. It was hungry. It was dying. V'haftas Hashem alekecha. The heart is on fire. Cholas Av is sick with love. Now you have to eat, and when you eat, you get fat. The tainug of the food. What is that? So he says, "V'hoyu advarim ha'ela asher anoichi." It's anoichi. It's not Shem quite Malchus Elam, but it's the I that is deeper than my name. My name is how you know me. My I, you don't know. You don't have access to my I. We only have access to people's names, to their reputations, to the way they reveal themselves to us. What God do we have access to in this world? The God that infuses the consciousness of the world. But this is anoichi. Because it's anoichi, it's Yesharim. It goes through, it comes down into the physical world. If not, we can't do a mitzvah. Truma is physical, and Maasros is physical, and Zerayim and Moyed, it's all physical. And the Torah also deals with physical stuff. But what is it? It's the Ein Sof, the way it comes down straight here. B'meila it's Mesamchei Leiv. U'kamay shekasuv, we say also in Tehillim, also Friday night, Uli Yishrei Leiv Simcha. Ohr Zaru al Atzadik. What does Li Yishrei Leiv Simcha mean? For the straight heart, there is Simcha. Meaning, Li Yishrei Leiv. For the Leiv that appreciates the Likkutei Hashem Yesharim, there is Simcha. V'ya Simcha ba acharat simayin shebavavta l'davka ben insay baruch hu mamash. This is the Simcha that can only come after the thirst. V'ya hafta is the thirst, it's the blood. It's the hot blood which creates a thirst and a hunger that you want to cleave. This is the Simcha. When a person puts to his heart, the Torah and mitzvahs, the physical that are before us. They're rooted, their foundation is in the higher mountains of holiness. The Ein Sof is expressed in them down here just like up there, because there's no concealment on the light of Hashem and the Kedusha. In Torah, you have direct access to divine Chachma. In mitzvahs, you have direct access to the divine Ratzon. That fills up the hungry soul. His desire, he implements, he completes. The Asik v'kiyam ha-mitzvahs, through the mitzvahs, v'talmud Torah keneged kulam. Above them all is learning, ki heim asher anoichi mamash mitzavcha. Because this comes from anoichi. V'hainu hayoy, that's the chiddush of Torah and mitzvahs. Asher anoichi mitzavcha. B'meila, this is the fat, this is the chelef. After the atzamas, which brings the gidin, which comes to the basar, which results in dam. Now you have a hoyu advarim ha'ela. That's the eating, which creates the chelev, the shamnunias, the tainug, the mesamchei leiv that comes from the sense of Yesharim in Torah and mitzvahs that fills the thirst. It fills the ava b'cholavavcha.
So it's intending to say Li Yishrei Leiv Simcha, that those who are tuned into the fact that these commandments, even the Gashmias, are actually Yashar and not Kol.
Yes,
that's the
that's
ultimate Simcha.
Yeah.
If they're tuned into
Yes.
that Yashrus of
Yeah,
it.
the yashrus of it. You're not on the bottom of the chain. Kodesh Yisrael Hashem, Reishis Tvuasa. It's an opportunity to connect with the ultimate core of all reality, with the Nekuda of Einaid Mulvada. With the Nekuda of Einaid Mulvada. And that's the shamnunius, that's the fattiness, the chelev that it's also put on the mizbeach. The tainug, the simcha in the mitzvah, there's geschmack in the Torah, the simcha in it. What's the simcha in it? The simcha in it here is, he touches a place that goes deeper and deeper and deeper than all of the universes together. Even the highest universe is a product of tzimtzum. It's a product of shem kvoid malchusay. It's mamala kalalme. But this is reishis tfuasay. That's Tvua. Tvua represents the process of creation, which is big. It's pretty powerful. Now you understand why you can't start with this. It's like eating without an appetite. It's like when your mother says, eat, eat, eat. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You know, what type of meal does that look like? You don't get fat from that. It's harder for kids to get fat than adults, right? Because they eat when they're forced. We eat from appetite.
I'm not sure why. If it's Yesharim, then it's Yesharim.
But that's the word.
Why do I need to go? If I have a straight up, if I'm there, so then what am I elevating? What do I need the eating for to get to the Tzav, to the eating, to the Maya, to the blood? I'm there. The way down is Tzav.
Right. Well, we live in a physical world. So there's a process. You could tell a person right away, Pikudi Hashem Yesharim Esam Chilev. But in order to appreciate what Yesharim means, the person has to appreciate the chiddush of it. The chiddush of it is that we live in a world that's physical. We live in a world that's finite. We live in a world where the divine is completely concealed. When a person appreciates the emes of Einoid Mulvada, but that truth is completely eclipsed in our universe, because our universe is based on Baruch Shem Kvod Malchus Elolam Vad. But there's a vahafta. There's something unsettled in the person, because he knows this truth. There's a tension there. And that tension, for a serious person, could be very, very painful. If somebody takes this serious, the tension could be very painful. The tension between the truth and the reality that he's dealing with. Right? That tension is painful. So v'hayu advarim eila shenoichim etzav chayim alavavecha is the Shulchan Aruch after a long seder. After the tension, after the angst, after the hunger, after the thirst. This is the real value of Torah and Mitzvos. This is why it's Mesamchei Lev.
So I'm pure.
You're right, it's always Yesharim.
That's based on just do what it needed to do to get.
No, the Beis HaMikdash was also in this world. The process of Avodah includes the Atzamas, the Gidden, the Basar, the Dam, right? In the carbon.
Yesharim. If it's Yesharim, it's Yesharim. If it's not Yesharim, then
The Torah is Yesharim. The Torah is Yesharim.
that's the mitzvah. He's saying the Samchid.
Right,
That's the mitzvah.
right.
Process to get.
But the human being
But
is
there is no process because it's Yesharim.
the Torah is Yesharim.
Your
That's the
avoda.
mitzvahs.
Your
But we're talking about our internalization of it,
How
Our
do you take
internalization.
our experience of it, our relationship with it. I'm living a soul in a body, and I have a lot of emotions, and I have a lot of experience, and I have a lot of fears, a lot of concerns, and a lot of dilemmas, and a lot of questions. We're talking in the process of the internalization of the person.
I thought he was saying that from the inside there's a time Bimala Mamish, and therefore it's Yeshara, and therefore why do we have to go through this process? We're already there. I thought that's what he was asking. Why do we have to
Yeah, but even the chelik alekami mal goes through hishtalshalus. Even the neshama goes through a major hishtalshalus. But because the Jew is asher kedishanu b'mitzvosav, so therefore the Jew is connected to kodesh, which is beyond the tefillah.
But he's saying the mitzvah in itself is true. So then the mitzvah, what do I have to do?
Yeah.
Except that I have to go to work and deal with
Well, you deal with the heart and the blood, boiling blood.
The carbon tummy the whole day.
So you're saying in theory I wouldn't need to do it?
Summers, the chelik, the gittin, the
Yeah,
tam.
we had the same thing with the matzah and the nochash. There was the curled around by the Mitzrayim, with the plosha with them.
The clipper.
The matzah was straight down.
The matzah was
as opposed
straight.
to the nochash.
which is winding,
So how do you say this?
which is winding. Yeah.
There.
You are there. So then why are you doing gold? But you want to appreciate it. You want to get
But the mitzvah, that's Yesharim.
But you have to get. I'm not at your level. I'm not at your level. I have to work. I'm sorry.
That's his chiddush.
You're
His
very
chiddush is that
high.
you don't have to get there. His chiddush is that it's lowest
You have to,
Hashem.
no, but you have to work, get there to realize that you're there.
He's telling me I'm Yesharim, so I'm not there. So
Do you
you're
feel
right.
it?
No.
So you have to work on
But
it to
his
feel
point
it.
is that I don't have to feel it because I'm already there. That's the chiddush of Yesharim.
That's you, but many
I
of
don't
us are
feel
not.
it either, but he's telling me that I'm there. That's his point. He's telling me I'm there.
Let's go outside and settle this.
Seems like we're doing just fine.
You have anything to say? Let's ask Lenny.
Come to the level of alternate.
She'inum, Yesharim she'inum b'derech hishtalshelus. I ain't so. The Pinchas says they're bunny. It's not the Pinchas hishtalshelus. It doesn't need that. So you, okay, so that's what you're saying. So you're saying it's a show. It's a show for me to see and understand myself and understand that I have a moyach and I have a gidim and I have blood and I have a
They say from Rabbi YY Jacobson, Rabbi YY Jacobson once said, Savart, he said that if you would bring in one tzitza to Gan Eden, the whole Gan Eden would burn down. Or to use contemporary language, the whole Gan Eden would be nuked. From one tzitza in Gan Eden. If you would bring in one tzitza in Gan Eden, the whole Gan Eden would burn down. What's Pshat? Pshat is that the Ohr in one mitzvah of tzitzis is infinitely deeper than the Ohr in the whole Gan Eden. Because Gan Eden is tzaddik, the Gemara in Brachas, Yud Zayin, tzaddikim yoishvim v'nenin, miziv hashchina, Baruch, Shem, Kvoid Malchus. The mitzvah is Yesharim. One tzitz in Gan Eden, the whole thing would explode. There would be too much energy. So here's a funny thing. We wear tzitzis in this world, nobody explodes. The Baditshever almost. Baditshever almost. There was one Sukkot morning, you know the Monsey, yeah? There was an esrog, huh? The esrog was behind a glass shafa, a glass bookcase, a glass case. And right away, by Neitzachama, Sukkot in the morning, he went dashing for the esrog. He didn't realize the glass. So his hand went straight through. He took out the esrog. He made a bracha. And then he wondered why his daled minim were red. The daled minim were red. But that was that. So in this world, you wear tzitzis, nobody gets. But that's the vart. That's what's going to be. We'll soon see. Because our world, in a way, is very lowly, so it can have much more than Gan Eden would have. Because in Gan Eden, everything is transparent. You could see everything. When you could see everything, it also becomes overwhelming. It's like too much. Here we have a special chush that works positively and negatively. It's called the art of repression. We can have a lot going on and we're not aware of it. So it could work in the negative. It also works in the positive. That the deepest of the deep could come here, but it's called blutakahate. It's cold. They say about the Likkutei Torah, he was once in a city, and Mitzvah Yom Kippur, he was in shul, so somebody invited him, come eat tzachap fasting. So he came home, he went to the house, and he asked them if before he sits down, if they could bring him a Masechta Sukkah. They brought him a Masechta Sukkah, and he stood a whole night, Mitzvah Yom Kippur, and he learned through Masechta Sukkah from the beginning till the end. So they asked him before they brought Masechta Sukkah, why don't you eat first? He says, Yom Kippur is a ganze Tag Davening. Ich habe gar nicht gelernt. I didn't learn anything. Before I eat, I need Masechta Sukkah. So a whole night he learned through Masechta Sukkah, beginning to the end. And it's around 50 pages, a little more. And then he ate afterwards. Later they didn't know who it was. Later they heard it was a Likkutei Torah. But what's the nekuda of it? What's the nekuda? It wasn't Stame Pesach. Tefillah is the hergish of Tzimayin. Tzimayin, the dveikus of Tzimayin, the Ava. The Torah is the Yesharim. So after Yom Kippur, his deepest desire was he wants Masechta Sukkah. Also says that Mitzvah Yom Kippur you should start with the Sukkahs. I guess he started with the Sukkah, the Shalom Parim Tzvah. But this is the Indian that exists after in Torah and Mitzvahs. where from all the thirst and the angst, the existential angst of the person touches and embraces the real Anoichi, the I. Because in Torah, even in the physical Torah that we learn down there, you have the whole truth.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.